conference weekend is the best. It's amazing. Okay, it's not the best. It's the second best. But it's really, really good. It's the second best weekend in all of NCAA wrestling, second to only, of course, the NCAA Wrestling Championships. And I'm so excited for this year's NCAA Conference weekend. It gets going just a week from today when I'm shooting this, Friday. 1 week from today, March 8th, it starts going down, EIWAs. And I'm going to go through the toughest weight classes in each individual conference. And some of these, man, these were really tough decisions. Some of these conferences, of course, as you know, have a lot of really good weights. But there's one conference that I think will probably surprise you how close the debate was. Getting started with the EIWA Championships, 133-pound weight class. This is bar none the toughest weight class of all of EIWAs. As I mentioned, that starts Friday. It goes down March 8th, March 9th. The championship finals will be on March 9th. All of it's live on FloWrestling if you want to check it out. But the toughest weight in EIWAs is, this is not going to be a big surprise, 133 pounds, where the EIWA boasts 7 nationally ranked wrestlers. But that's not what separates this weight class, of course. What separates this weight class is number 1, Ryan Crookham, and number 2, Vito Arujau. Now, this is probably the most anticipated rematch in the entire NCAA season, right? This was a shocker around a bunch of other shockers, but this was the shocker of shockers to start the season when Ryan Crookham went to Journeyman and took out Vito Arujau, and he has not looked back since. He's been excellent the entirety of the season. He beat Aaron Nagao. He's got a host of other wins. He had to battle just to make the team. Remember, his teammate, Ryan Crookham's teammate, Connor McGonigal, was ranked like 6th to start the season, wrestled in the All-Star Classic, and won. Okay, that's how deep the room is at 133 at Lehigh. And Crookham is the starter. He's number 1 in America, and this is the rematch we want to see. Last time, it was Vito's shots and Crookham's very, very tricky counter wrestling. Now, I'm so curious the tactical adjustments both these guys make. But 133, 7 ranked guys, number 1 versus number 2. And unfortunately, you can watch this one all on FloWrestling. They have a number of other really tough ranked guys like Michael Kolioko, Penn, Phipps, very tough wrestler as well. But the talk of this weight, number 1 versus number 2. Okay, toughest weight in the Southern Conference. Now, this is a small conference. It doesn't have a ton of teams, but 133 pounds has 3 ranked wrestlers. You got Ethan Oakley of App State. You've got Dom Zacconi of Campbell, and you've got Blake Borman of University of Tennessee Chattanooga. Always an exciting tournament, exciting team race. Campbell, App State, always duking it out for that top spot. So make sure you're checking out the Southern Conference. That goes down Saturday. Check it out. I think it goes down at App State. Pac-12, this was one of my tougher ones, okay? Because I was between, I was like, oh, it's going to be this way. And I was like, well, maybe it's this way. But I was between 149 and 125. And I'll let you guys make the call here. I'll get off the fence and form my opinion, but I'm curious where you guys land. So 125, we'll start there. This is the weight of chaos, right? And you almost, these national rankings, you look at them and you say, okay, well, these guys aren't ranked all that high. You got number 13, Kaler. You got number 21, Provo. You got 17, Richard Figueroa. You got number 30, Dom Mendez. Well, okay, yeah, that's one way to look at it. They're not the highest ranked guys. None of those guys are in the top 10, but Kaler's a returning All-American. Nico Provo won CKLV and was number 1 in America. Richard Figueroa was on this short list coming into this season to win an NCAA title at 125 pounds. And this is all at the Pac-12, which has very, very few teams. So this dense amount of talent, it really stands out. And Richard Figueroa, by the way, after starting the season pretty poorly, he missed a lot of time with injury, and then he came back. He wasn't quite wrestling as we'd seen him. He's been really tough lately. He beat Luke Stanich of Lehigh last week. He's been adding other really good wins, and now it seems like he's rounding into form. And for my money, I think he's the favorite coming into this tournament, even though on paper it may not look that way. I think everyone kind of knows Richard Figueroa, Richie Figs as we call him, best case, when he's wrestling at his best, he's probably the toughest guy at this weight. But I think this is probably second to 149 pounds, where you have number 3, Kyle Parko. Now, I say number 3, that guy could very reasonably, Kyle Parko could say, hey, I should be number 1. Okay, my only loss is to Caleb Henson, and I just beat Ridge Lovett, who was number 1 according to FloWrestling. But he's not number 1. He's ranked number 3 by Flo. I think that's probably the right ranking, but there's an argument for Kyle Parko at that top spot. But also, you've got number 8, Jaden Abbas in All-American. You've got number 9, Chance Lamer, very, very tough. And you got a very tough Nash Singleton from Oregon State. So this is another incredibly competitive weight class. I think entertainment value, you probably lean 125 because I think anything goes there. But for overall excellence and depth of talent, I think you go with 149 pounds, the toughest weight at the Pac-12 championships. ACC always has a couple of these weights where it's like, hey, there's only 5-6 teams in this conference, but you have a ton of ranked guys. And I think what stands out for ACC this year is 141 pounds, where you've got number 4, Ryan Jack, number 6, Lachlan McNeil. Of course, Ryan Jack, NC State, McNeil, UNC, those two guys, they've wrestled so many times. McNeil cannot seem to figure out how to beat Ryan Jack. They've wrestled 4 or so times, and McNeil just keeps coming up a little bit short there. But the number 1 guy by our rankings is Cole Matthews, but he's ranked number 12 in the national rankings because if you follow Cole Matthews' season, he had a really, really rough start. Now he's back to the Cole Matthews we've seen in the past. He's been an All-American. He's beaten a lot of really good guys throughout his career. He beat Jesse Mendez this year, okay? Cole Matthews is extremely tough. And you also have Tom Crook of Virginia Tech, a guy who I said he'll never wrestle 141 again. Well, they've got some crazy nutritional plan. They got Crook down. He's wrestled really well. He will be in the match with all these guys. Can he beat all these guys? I'm not sure, but he's going to be competitive with every single wrestler here. And so as you look at it, matchups are going to really dictate how this goes. And for Lachlan, he wants someone to take out Ryan Jack before he gets to him probably. Probably deep down he wants to beat Ryan Jack. But if you're a UNC fan, you're probably saying, someone could take out Ryan Jack. Lachlan McNeil could be conference champ. Cole Matthews says, hey, I can do it. I've done it before. I can do it again. And Ryan Jack, he's the top-ranked guy at this weight. So I think this is going to be a great weight class. ACC always has competitive weights. It's a really exciting, it's dense with talent. In the Atlantic Coast Conference, it's only going to get tougher from here. Virginia Tech and NC State are going nowhere. And this is one of the funnest team races every single year between Tech and NC State. If you watch that duel and if you like that drama, there's going to be plenty more of that going down on Sunday at the ACC Championship. So make sure you're tuning in for those. Okay, 2 conferences to go. Big 12 was extremely tough to pick this one. And you look through the Big 12, and they have double-digit ranked wrestlers in multiple weight classes. The Big 12 is insanely deep. There's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of high-end talent there. There's a lot of overall depth. It's a really good conference. It's far and away the second-best conference in wrestling, to, of course, the Big 10. Big 12, I'm going to give you the case for both weight classes that I think are in contention for toughest weight classes at the Big 12 championships, which go down Saturday and Sunday next week, March 9th and 10th. So Big 12 165, this is obvious, right? This is obvious you should be talking about this weight class. It's because you have number 1, Keegan O'Toole, number 2, David Carr. Now, this is an NCAA finals rematch, a Big 12 finals rematch, 2 national champions, and it was a match we thought we were going to saw last week. Apparently, the entire Missouri team was sick, and this match didn't happen. Incredibly disappointing, but it just builds the anticipation even further for this match that goes down at the Big 12 likely finals. But that's not the end of the strength of this weight class. You have number 7, Peyton Hall of West Virginia. This is a guy who beat number 8, Isaac Olenek, who was really the first 2 months of the season, he was the talk of this weight class because he transferred from NIU to Oklahoma State, and you're like, okay, well, he'll probably do pretty well there. Well, right away, first match, he beats Dean Hamady, a match where he was a considerable underdog. And then he goes on to win Cliff Keen Las Vegas, which had David Carr, which had Julian Ramirez, which had Cam Amin. Isaac Olenek won that tournament. So, and then Peyton Hall beats that guy. So it's a really tough weight. And now you have 2 other ranked guys. You've got Gino Petrosilli and you've got Kale Carlson rounding out the depth of that weight class. So 1 versus 2, a lot of depth. This is a great weight class. I think it has the best overall match of the Big 12 championships, but I believe it is the second toughest bracket at Big 12s to 184 pounds, which also boasts number 1 versus number 2 in America. Number 1, Parker Keckheisen. Number 2, Dustin Plott. Now these two hit earlier in the year. It was a Parker Kekheisen win. It was close for a while, and then Parker pulled away a little bit at the end. Okay, but Plott's been excellent this year since moving up to 184 pounds. But you also have number 7, Bennett Berge. Berge had a war with Dustin Plott, and that's a match I really want to see again. It was really exciting, and Plott ended up, he had to dig deep there to run down Berge, because Berge had a nice little lead, but Plott, we know his leg attacks and his offense is really strong. He's able to run him down and get the win there. But you've also got All-American Will Feldkamp for Iowa State. You've got Sam Wolf of the Air Force. He's been able to notch a lot of really elite wins this year. And then number 13, Clayton Whiting. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in the top 13 at this weight class, including number 1 versus number 2. For my money, this is the toughest weight class. Toughest weight to win is 165. Toughest overall weight class, 184 pounds at the Big 12 Championships. That's my opinion. And then let's go to the Big 10 Conference. This is the conference of conferences. It's the final boss. It's the toughest. It's got the most depth. It's got the most national champions, on and on and on. This is the gold standard for conferences at the NCAA wrestling level. And I think this is actually not that tough of a decision. I looked through every single weight class, and I'm pretty certain this is the toughest one, and I don't even think it's that close. And it's 141 pounds at the Big 10 Championships. Now, what do they have? Well, you got number 1, Bo Bartlett. You've got number 2, Real Woods, who is the returning NCAA finalist and was the preseason number 1. You've got number 3, Jesse Mendez. You've got number 5, Brock Hardy, okay? So you have 4 of the top 5, but it doesn't stop there. You've also got number 14. Now I say 14, you're like, well, what? Sergio Limley. Well, what's he done this year? Well, he beat number 2, Real Woods. We all saw that. But was he a flash in the pan? Well, did you watch his match against Brock Hardy? Yeah, he lost that match. But that was an incredible match, and it was one that Sergio was right there to win. And I think we all know Brock Hardy can go with all these guys. We watched his match against Bo Bartlett. Everyone was sort of up in arms with the result of that match. I thought, Bo was the better guy that day. But Brock's been able to win that match in the past. And Sergio was right there with him. You also have Mitch Moore. But, so those are guys in the top 20. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the top 20. But they have 12 total ranked wrestlers at this weight class. There's only 14 teams in the Big 10 Wrestling Conference. 12 of them are ranked. This weight is insane. I think there's semifinal matches that could be NCAA final matches. You think about a match like Real Woods and Jesse Mendez. We didn't see that in the regular season this year. We haven't seen it ever, right? Because Jesse was at 133 last year. I think that is going to be an absolute war. Both those guys are really dynamic in the ways that they can score. Real's really good from the top position. He's good at getting to his left-sided single leg, hand fighting. Jesse Mendez is a great overall wrestler, great overall athlete. He can attack from everywhere. That to me is one of the best matchups. But for me, this is not only the toughest weight class at Big Tens, but Big Ten 141 is the toughest conference weight of any weight, right? You can look at Big 12 184. You can look at other Big Ten weights. You can look at Big 10, 125 has a lot of depth there, and it's got number 1 versus number 2. But for me, it's 141 pounds. There's a lot of great matchups in all of these conferences, and if you can figure it out, you should try to watch a little bit of all these weight classes. But there's a little bit of research, a little homework done for you. If you want to dive a little bit deeper, or a lot deeper, honestly, go to our homepage. We have every single NCAA conference ranking, so you can look at all of our SoCon rankings. You can see how they stack up. You can look at all of our ACC rankings. You can look at Big 12, Big 10, on and on. Make sure you're checking those out. We've got a ton of content coming from you, but I want to hear from you. What do you think the toughest conference weight is for this upcoming conference weekend?